Hello, chess fans! I would like to invite you by a game between Boris Gelfand and Vladimir Kramnik, two legends of chess, both very well known, both candidates. Vlad Kramnik also a champion. So, let's see how they did in their first game. In their first game of this matchup, preliminary round. And Boris wasn't favorite really. And they played d4, knight f6. Seems to be the queen Indian, but in this position, Kramnik fires with d5, so it's classy queen's gambit, while e3 would be the most common move, maybe. But Boris responded with knight c3 in this position, and yeah, said something like, yeah, take me on c4, I will fire with e4, and I will have the strong center. Which Kramnik obviously responded with knight d7, knight b to d7, and bishop f4, and now he takes. Now Vladimir takes on c4 with that idea that he will continue maybe with c5 later or a6 b5, the plan, with the development of the light square's bishop to b7. That's of course main strategy of black, putting the a6, b5 and bishop to b7. But black also needs to work against the white center pawns, because that's the really logic. If now white plays his pawn to e4, most probably black will respond with c5. But white in this position plays only e3, logically controlling the d4 pawn, which will be a little weakness. If he moves to e4, then after c5, immediate attack against the d4 pawn, and it will be a little trouble for white. So that's why e3, with the idea of taking easily the pawn on c4. Now, obvious answer should be really c5, or maybe bishop to e7 or b4, but as Kramnik obviously play his chess, he responded with b5. Seems to be weird, because it's a sacrifice of pawn. If white accepts the sacrifice, then he will put the pressure against the c7, so seems to be logical. Maybe that's why he, without thinking, takes on b5. But black has the answer. Black has the check, which is really important. This check with a tempo, not allowing to take on c7. And now white has two main ideas. Putting backwards the knight to c3. But yeah, when I move forward, then I don't want to go backwards. With knight c3, it can be the line. Maybe it will be a slightly better position for white, but black has the knight d5, and the pressure against the c3 knight is there. Maybe black will trade the dark square's bishop, so that's the importance. After rook c1, maybe black can take immediately on f4 and play the position with the bishop pair, and it will be really good for black. So that's why maybe white responded with knight d2, because now the pin is not so annoying. After knight d5, which came, white has a time to move with the bishop to g3 and save his dark square's bishop, which has really importance. and black continues with the development, logically trying to save the pawn on c4, not giving it without fight. White continues with a3, bishop a5, rook c1, putting the pressure against the c4 pawn, castlings, and now coming back with the knight to allow taking on c4 in the next move, because knight from d2 couldn't move because of the pin. So now knight takes c4 is a threat. Black covers the c4 pawn with a very major idea, putting pressure against the d2 pawn. And now the first variation came with some kind of traits, and now the bishop moves to e4 and seems to be equal. Both sides have the bishop pair. Every bishop has a role in this position, so it seems to be equal, but a little easier to play for white, even if the king must settle in the middle. But white has a much easier plan. He has already the g-file with his rook. He can transfer the queen on h5 with a tempo, because the queen attacks the a5 bishop. So it seems to be a little easier to play with white and hard to find a good plan for black. And we shall see that after queen h5, black must defend his bishop, and defend it with bishop f5, king e2, connecting the rooks and preparing maybe the attack against the black's king. Pawn on c3 doesn't matter too much. White will be very fast over the g-file. That's why maybe black gets the bishop to b6. Maybe already positional mistake now, bishop b6, because it's a move. It's a waste of time. Black needs to be fast enough, because white's king is not that safe, and black's king also has no safety on g-file. So who checkmates the first, then he win. So queen d7. Queen d7 will be with the idea to move the queen to a4 and attack against the queen's wing, taking on a3, taking on c3. That's the way black should get his power. Rook b8, rook b2 to connect against the white king. Now bishop b6 is too slow, attacking against nothing. Bishop b6, the idea of this move was to allow the bishop g6, because the bishop from f5 couldn't move. So bishop b6, that's the main idea, not attacking the d4 pawn, which has no sense, but bishop g6 to close the g-file against the white's enemy. So that's the key, but it's too slow, simply too slow, because bishop e5 attacking immediately g7, bishop g6 is the only move. Queen g4, again putting pressure on the g-file. h4, h5 is simple plan for white. Black queen e8 is multifunctional move. Black keeps an eye over the h5 square. After something like f6, he has the h5 over control, and there could be something like bishop h5 a threat, trapping the queen. Also after f5, sure, but the most influence of this move is moving the queen to a4, maybe. Queen a4, queen takes a3, and coming through the queen's wing against the white's king. That should be preferred, but again, it's a little too slow. H4, now queen a4 would be too slow, because h5 is already a threat. Uh, okay, white needs something to do with the bishop on c4 first, but he will without troubles. He can move the bishop to d3, and the g7 square would be overloaded. So no time for that. So f5 was the response, but it's opening all the face, and now you can see the harmony of the black's camp is over. There, the bishop on b6 is without influence. Bishop on g6 is there only to defend the g file. Queen on e8 is too passive, without any work. And you can see the white's rackets, racket on e5, racket on c4, and the g file with the major pieces. It's very hard to defend. Nice move, queen f3. Not not making worries against the bishop h5, which seems to be winning the queen, but only for a few seconds, because there is rook takes g7, and well, this is all over. So it's unplayable, bishop h5. So that's why black needs to continue and save his bishop from g6 for a play. Open the diagonal for him for a future only. White takes, of course, why not? Rook f5, and nice move, king f1, because now the threat bishop h5 was correct, because after rook takes g7, king can move to f8. Rook d8, bishop d3, rook takes the place on h5, only move again, but now taking on g6, h takes g6, and bishop takes g7. Very nice combination. After king takes g7, white will probably take the rook, and with such a material advantage, black has to resign. That's why now queen b5 check. Very nice move, but c4 is there. Very nice move for white, attacking the queen immediately, and queen must move to f5. Now, materially speaking, white is 2 pawns up, but black is getting at least something, more harmony over the pieces, but only the bishop from b6 has no influence. Very nice move, bishop f6, attacking the rook again. Queen cannot take on f6 because of the rook on h5. So rook f8 and rook g5. Again, very nice move. Now black needs to make something at least if he wants to continue in this game. So he sacrificed the queen. Very nice combination. Takes, takes, takes. And now rook and the bishop against the queen. The rooks have very good coordination over the f file. The trouble is that the bishop has again no future. After c5, bishop a5, and rook c2, you can see that the bishop is caught on the queen side and has no influence over the play. That's why black is playing c6 to save him for future, moving him through the d8 maybe to the help against the king. But c6 has a trouble, because after queen takes, the c pawn has 3 steps into promotion. So it's now probably lost for black, because the c pawn is very fast. Now you can see. He is moving, and he is promoting. Now, no chance, because all the major pieces are standing on light squares. So black could do only check, and he didn't do so. He resigned. Very nice game. Vladimir Kramnik then won one game, and then was better in the in the Armageddon game and simply overplayed Boris. But in this game, Boris Gelfand played really well, had a brutal harmony between the pieces, and won in really nice game. So I thank you for watching and have a nice day.